Yo, Zach Bradshaw, the Greensboro SEO Pro, back once again with a bite-sized internet marketing tutorial. So in this video, we're going to optimize your website images. We're not going to worry about the SEO or anything else in this tutorial right here. We'll save that for another one. In this one, we are only going to worry about optimizing your website performance. So we're going to talk about getting your images sized properly, TinyPNGing them, or using a tool that losslessly compresses them essentially, and then adding them to your website. And why that's important. So the main thing, and I see this so often with a client, I just saw it with one of my clients that I'm working with now that had a banner image on his site that was, once I opened the image itself, was 3,000 pixels across. Well, I have a pretty large screen and it's like 2,200 or something like that. And there's not very many 3,000 pixel screens across, and you certainly don't want to upload an image and make somebody's browser or phone download that image before loading the content on your site, right? So you want to make sure that it, at the very least for web, for browsers, that you have sized images properly, and that potentially you've mobile optimized and made some smaller images also for mobile, or created an AMP page separately if that's the route that you want to go. So this is the banner that I use for, this is the template of the banner that I use for my daily content challenge on zachbradshaw.com, which is a crappy series of posts that you haven't, there's no reason to read them. I'm not trying to promote that or anything, but this is the template I use. It's out of Canva, and I just use a free version of Canva, and it only has like several different sizes I can use, and the one that I use for this is presentation, which is not sized like it's 1920 across and a 1080. This direction is basically 1080p resolution, which is not what I need. It's great for doing a presentation, and like the crappy SEO presentations that I make, I also do them in here, but it's not perfect for the web, right? So what I do is I download it from here. I throw it into Pixlr because I'm not paying for Photoshop either, and I just resize this image. So the first thing I do is I just add the image in here, come up here, image size, resize it, and I make the width, because this is the header image of my site, which is this width right here. I think it's 1080 or something like that at the max, or I forget how this site is set, but my images will never display on this header image more than 1080 in width, and I could probably go as low as like 840 or something like that. It probably is 840 is the number that I should be using there, but I just reduced it to 1080. That's good enough for me, and it cuts out a ton of the image size. But just to show this right here, if I were to come in here and save this image as it is right now, kind of just saving it over itself, it's a big O image, right? If I think that's like 1.9 megabytes or something like that. But as I come in here and I reduce this image size, take it down a little notch, and go to save it again, it's already lost like a third of like how large this image is, right? In file size. And some, like, the page that this loads on, the whole file size is the page that this is, once I've got this finally optimized, is probably this large in total. But so I download this here. And I'm not actually going to do it because I've already done this several times. So you can see that in the 17th one, this is the large post. If I just hover this, maybe I can, and I just move this to an info view real quick just so you can see, because I've already done this. But the original version of this file was at 13 whatever, and I guess as I tried to save it in Pixlr, it made it larger, but it was at 13, and then as I reduced it, it brought it down like half, and you can see that it's pretty consistent across the whole thing. As I brought them from 1920 by 1080 to 1080 by 608 is what that came down to. It reduced, essentially by half across all of those. If I reduce them even further, it's not a linear curve, so it starts to get a lot smaller. But in the final version, this post, once it's been run through TinyPNG, which that will be the last step, it's down to 154 kilobytes. So it ends up being almost 10% of what it was originally, and it has a major bearing on the load time of your website. So you know, if you're in WordPress or another content management system, there could be some plugins or something else that you could use to do this on the front end of your website, and it may do it right when you upload. There's some that may even go in your media gallery and fix all the images, but in almost all cases I've seen that this is much better. Those don't perform well, and sometimes they just cause like funny glitches or other compatibility issues. It's always best to just fully optimize your images and then serve them through a CDN, but that's of course another talk for another day. So I'm not going to save all this right now because I've already done them, but TinyPNG is a really simple tool, and I can just run this through here again, and I'll give an example. Let's do any of these. I guess it really doesn't matter because I'm not going to save it, but let's just do the 17 again. So I've already reduced this one by half, and we'll open that one in there. And we might as well do it again, and I'll show you this real quick too. And so this one came from 680 kilobytes down to 158, and this one that I've already run, which you see, this is the same image. It's ran through and it came out and it was spat out at 158.3. I ran it again and it got a little bit smaller. Now, if you do this too many times, or if you do it kind of multiple times in a row, I've seen that it will degrade the picture. And there's another factor within this that is, you know, super important. I've been doing PNGs here, which if you are uploading images with words, they probably need to be a PNG so that the words are clear as it reduces. If you do a JPEG, the words are going to look funky as it's sized to different, you know, sizes. Now, in this model right here, that's funny that this one is the one that looks messed up, but this is a PNG version of the image. If I was doing another image on my computer, let me pull one up. So say I have this beautiful JPEG right here that I want to save, because when you use a photo that's like this, if you want it to come out well, you probably want to make it a JPEG. It will look better as a JPEG as opposed to a PNG. And there is a lion in my thing here, but I don't care how, like, it already looks fine. And it's not noticeable, but JPEGs typically look better. And so if I wanted to, let's just say I wanted to crop this. If I want to crop this and resave it, when you're doing this in something like Pixlr and Photoshop, other things have these same type of settings. When you go to save this, you can slide this quality, and this is not a lossless compression. This is a lossy compression, so it does degrade the look of the photo. PNGs do not have this. They're like a transparent photo, and they do not do this. They have like a full color spectrum, blah, blah, blah. This is basically the image saturation or layers or some crap like that. And it makes the picture look worse the further you slide this, but you can see that it's also making this file size much smaller. And this I've had experience. It does not seem like it's a linear scale either. So you can sometimes find the right balance. Now, if you're applying something like, if I was going to add this to my website and I was going to apply a white filter over it so it was just barely visible, like I might be able to get away with throwing this down here at an 8 or something like that. I'm not going to do that right now to this gorgeous picture of my boys, but you can see that you can reduce your file size in certain instances if it's not necessary that that file looks great, right? So there's a bunch of different applications for that, and just think about it as you're saving your file type. Because JPEGs are typically a little bit larger than PNGs anyway, you should run them both through TinyPNG. Either way, this is the name of the tool is TinyPNG, but also do JPEGs in the same way. And just to provide that same example, let's see how much TinyPNG will reduce it. But you see this one kicked it by 45%, right? So the first one, the JPEG, the big old JPEG that is slightly larger than this file, brought it down by 77%. This photo that had clearly a lot of color modifications to it, dropped it down by 45%. And that's going to basically result in a direct load time. That's how it'll reduce how long this photo takes to load on your website by 45%, right? So not all of your website, but you know, my whole website. I'll go ahead and look at that in just a moment for you as well. Let's see how large the entire page of the website is. So now I've run that same page with the fully TinyPNG image that I did, I guess it was on Sunday, through this tools.pingdom.com, which is a page speed tester, and it says that the entire size of the page is 915 kilobytes. That one large image would have essentially quadrupled the size of this page by itself, right? So obviously that would have had an effect on the load time. I'm actually going to swap that out for you and change the photo, purge my cache, run this again and see what the final page speed, page size is, and see how much worse the performance grade and all that is, just to show it to you. But I also wanted to show it to you right here in Google PageSpeed Insights, just so you can see what the scores are before I change it to the terrible image. Right now on desktop, I'm sitting at 91. Mobile is a 68, which is actually pretty good for mobile. If I added multiple pictures, this would not stay to 68. It's really difficult to get a high score with that without using AMP or some really smart web development. That's not AMP, but there's some other things in here that I could still do, and some of these are using next-gen formatted things. Like there's other JPEG versions and a WebP that I've not really explored the difference between those and PNG, or what softwares I would need to get on that. But that's something that, you know, as a SEO over the next year or so, I'm going to be looking into that, because I'm all about pushing the web forward, essentially. So there is still, I'm passing this audit as far as sized images, but I could still make this image smaller, right? Based on where it's serving. It is serving through my CDN. That's why you see that crazy layout. And it is slightly larger than it is when it's downloaded to my website, right? But there's potential savings if I made it what looks like they think it could be a third smaller, a whole third smaller. There's only one image on here, and it could be a whole third smaller. And you can see this is still, let's see, does Google have this stat? I think it does somewhere, but I'm not going to waste your time looking. But you see the whole page was 715 by tools.pingdom, and they definitely run differently, and you'll have way different results between these different tools, and that's why I pulled them both up. But let's see how the other version of the photo does. Now you see I've added the larger image, and it looks like it only bumped this up by, I don't know, 400 kilobytes or something like that. It doesn't look like within tools.pingdom.com, which is probably the worst page speed tester, but it's the fastest and easiest to use, that it wasn't even fully loaded before they counted this as a full load. But you see my scores are worse. Obviously performance grade isn't. Part of that is probably because lazy load, I have lazy load set on this page, which is deferring the images till they're in the viewport. Probably somehow just messed with their test, because it's clearly not fully loaded. But you see that PageSpeed Insights, I've also lost 7 points here. Again, if that was across 2 photos, then I'll probably be sitting in the 50s. And again, I lost a point off of this one, and now I did not pass the properly sized images, or the, let me see if I pass this other image one, minify. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at it. I'm looking for a GTMetrix one. But this tool is not. It won't show you whether things are already losslessly compressed, but might as well show it to you. So I ran this test again on GTMetrix, which is another page speed tool. It's probably still not the best one, but it has this thing that will show you optimized images, and I came down to it and it says that these images are optimized. I'm kind of like, what the heck? But then I realized that I'm on WP Engine, and this site I'm using their CDN, so it apparently like circumvented that and is not showing that. But if you are trying to reduce your images and you are not sure about them or whatever else, there's another workaround. Instead of using TinyPNG, you can just put your you can just analyze your site on this tool, on GTMetrix like this, and when it comes down to this, you won't get 100% like I did, because I'm using, again, WP Engine CDN is preventing this, and I'll show you that in the waterfall chart in a minute. But this will have a link to download basically a TinyPNG version of all those photos. So this may be a faster way for some people, but TinyPNG is the tool that I trust the most, and I tend to get the best results with it. So there's different types of compression. I don't want to bog you down with that. Again, you want to do lossless compression, this tool will help you do it. TinyPNG will help you do it. Choose whichever one you want to have you do it. There could be other ones that are better than either one of those. Now, just to show you this real quick on the waterfall chart, this is the file for the photo that is getting added and or is getting uploaded to the how should I say it, to your browser when you go to this page on my website. Now, it has this crazy URL that says WP Engine, NetData CDN, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes into the upload and the file name of that. And I can see that it's reduced it. It's created a new file and it's now reduced it to 1080 by 675, which is not even, it should be like 608 if it was done, you know, when I did it in Pixlr and reduced the image manually. That's not the correct ratio, but whatever WP Engine CDN did, it went ahead and reduced it to a smaller image, and then also must have losslessly compressed it as well. So that is the advantage if you're using something like WP Engine or Cloudflare. But again, I bet I could have, you see that the page did get larger by about 50% here. I'm sure that I still could have saved them some time, because this ended up being a larger file than what I'm sure it probably should have been half the size in terms of this asynchronous loading chart or waterfall chart that is probably over most everybody that's looking at this head. So any questions this video, go ahead and post them below. Obviously, like and subscribe to my stuff if you wanna. If not, that's cool too. Of course, if you need SEO, I am here to serve you as always. If not, that's cool too. And until next time, I love you. Peace.